From sports to the arts now, Clark County and the city of Las Vegas want to know how big of an economic impact their arts and culture scenes have. That's why they're taking part in Arts and Economic Prosperity 6, the 6th national study by Americans for the Arts. And here to explain that study are Mickey Sprott, Public Art Supervisor with Clark County Parks and Recreation, and Sarah O'Connell with Eat More Art Vegas. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Sarah, quickly, what is Eat More Art Vegas and what is your role in relation to this study?
Eat More Art Vegas is a platform for the local arts and culture community. It's run by the community for the community, and it's where people can learn about local arts, whether you're a practitioner or just a member of the public.
Okay, and then how are you taking part in this study?
Well, we're working with the city of Las Vegas specifically to help make sure that the participation with surveys is fully successful. So we're doing a lot of outreach and coordination with the city to administer the study.
So the city of Las Vegas has contracted you
Yes.
to implement this study, and you are doing it for Clark County. Mickey,
Correct.
how does this study work?
So with the study, there's a couple different facets that are happening. One of them is identifying all the nonprofits that are identified as an arts company or as a company that is delivering arts to our community, right? So we're identifying that list. We're getting in touch with these nonprofits to have them help us roll out these surveys during their cultural events. So then the survey focuses on questions about, hey, you've come to this event. How much money have you spent? Like, what are the things that you did today in preparation of coming to this event? A dinner and a performance goes hand in hand, right? So people are spending money. We know they're going out to dinner. They're, paying for public parking. Maybe they bought a new outfit for the special occasion. Then they buy the tickets to actually go to the performance. And then maybe they have dessert afterwards. If they have children, they're paying for the babysitters in the end. And then you think on the production side, that's clothing, that's printing, that's so much local money being spent. So that's what the survey's about, right?
And that money also is being spent to put on the production.
Yes.
So this survey seeks to find out what people who are going to the events are spending, but then there's the other aspect of spending as well. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that?
Sure. This is really about quantifying the economic impact of arts and culture in our communities. And what we've learned over the year in previous studies is that it's over 4% of our GDP, which is larger than transportation. And that's with numbers that have data that isn't always counted correctly. So what we're doing with this study is we're looking at all the different places where we don't normally count, and we're catching them. So we're catching the nonprofit organizations, we're catching libraries, we're catching educational institutions. It's a lot of places that provide arts and culture that we might not think of as cash drivers. But actually, in a place like Las Vegas, everything we do drives on gatherings like that.
So GDP, you mean here in Nevada or?
Nevada and nationwide. Nevada's GDP for arts and culture creative economy is larger than that of mining.
Wow.
And nationwide, it's larger than that of transportation and things, and agriculture in some cases. So this is about the new century, the new industrial revolution, and that's all about the creative economy.
And why are we making the distinction in this study with nonprofit as opposed to, so I'm assuming the Cirque performances on the Strip are not going to be counted?
No, so while we are going to get a list of for-profits as well from the Americans for the Arts, the focus is on nonprofits. As Clark County, we're a local government agency. We want to partner with nonprofits. Nonprofits are typically the places that are getting government funding, and so there's that focus there. They're also the people that are also bringing in revenues right back to the government, and it's the revenue that's staying within our community. So it's just important to focus down. And then, the reality is if you start looking at arts so globally, I mean, that's almost all jobs have it. Everything around us is arts. It's creative, from seeing where trees are planted. That's a creative landscape architect. So we want to whittle it down a bit.
Will you be using this data to help convince people who are perhaps confused by why tax dollars are spent on public art?
Well, that's one of the main points, is to meet people where they're at. And if you're a creative person, you understand your world. But from the outside looking in, the word art can be terrifying to someone who considers themselves not an artist. But everyone is creative. If you learn to tie your shoes, you learned how to turn vision into reality in a complicated way. And what artists do is they professionalize that, and they monetize that. And our nonprofit art sector does not mean that it's not professional. It just means that everything that the organization might earn goes back into the work, as opposed to some stockbroker or something. So when we are talking about measuring our nonprofit arts communities, we're talking about the small business community that is never counted, but it's very important. And if we understood that aspect of our small business community, then we would better diversify the economy for the state based on our endemic forces, the people who are already entrepreneurs, which are largely creative. We wouldn't be overlooking them. We would be fueling their fire and growing from the inside out instead of importing from the outside in.
Quickly, what are the nonprofit arts we're talking about? Could you give me some examples?
Yeah, so, it's anywhere, obviously local entities is one of our stakeholders. We're the local entity. And then we're looking at places like libraries, we're looking at the museums, professional associations, or you think of like German American Club, right? Those things that are nonprofits are part of arts and culture. And even PBS is part of our stakeholder group.
All right. I think this is getting you fired up when we talk about job creation and the role in the economy. The Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, which is a public-private partnership, listed the creative industries as one of its target industries, saying, quote, while the gaming, tourism, and hospitality industries were the historical pull factors that attracted creative workers, Southern Nevada has established itself as a hub for creative talent beyond the Strip. So they're acknowledging that this is an economic force to be dealt with. But then when I go onto the governor's website for economic development, among their key industries, this is not mentioned. Why do you believe that is?
Well, up until this point, there hadn't necessarily been a level of leadership dedicated to the advancement of the sector and explaining it to people. But Eat More Art was founded 7 years ago to try to shift the paradigm and build partnerships so that people in the public arena could better understand how we are partnering on the nonprofit side. That has borne fruit. I was actually in conversations at some of the higher levels. The conversations are leaning toward including the creative industries into Nevada's bigger picture. So I would say that we have made positive progress, and seeing the Economic Alliance finally acknowledge it is a positive step to reinforce that.
Mickey, could you give me an example of a piece of public art that has been beneficial economically that perhaps county leaders had no idea?
Yeah, so Seven Magic Mountains came in quite a few years ago at this point, and I don't think we knew how successful that would be. It was the Nevada State Arts Museum that funded it, brought it out to Vegas, and it's really far away from the Strip, it's a travel. But as it came out and as the world found out about these pieces being here, you see more and more tourists coming to that site to take a look. And so when you're there, I've seen food trucks there because there's been so many people. You're there and you start hearing different languages. So, we know that tourism and the arts go hand in hand, and people will travel specifically to a city to see those arts. So Seven Magic Mountains is a wonderful way to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to add that that's a two-way street, because a local artist by the name of Jason Favela, he does a lot of visual art, and he's very successful, and he's from here. He created his own reaction to that exhibit on the east side with tires that were painted the same as the rocks, and it got new tourists.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is wonderful, ladies. Thank you so much for joining this discussion.